Welcome back to another edition of History in Your Own Backyard. I'm Susie Selleck, and today we are in Decatur County, Indiana. We are at the Springhill Presbyterian Church, and I'm joined by Max Niemeyer. Max, thanks for coming out today.
You're very welcome.
All right, so do me a favor, tell me a little bit about the structure of this church, and maybe tell me when it was built.
This church was built in 1892. There is some history behind it that I found interesting. At the end of the War of 1812, there were some soldiers going back to Kentucky, and they stopped here and camped for a while, and they really liked this area. So a few years after they were back home, they got their families, came out here and settled. And when they finally had time, they built a log church, and they named it New Zion, which was to honor the congregation of the Zion Church near Lexington, Kentucky, where some of them were members. Later, there was a frame church established to replace the log church, and then in 1892, this church was built.
In 1892?
Yes.
So some of the things that stand out to me, the stained glass windows. Can you talk about those a little bit?
Well, these are the original windows.
These are the originals?
Yes, and they were shipped from Germany. And I may not be correct in this, but I was thinking someone had told me at one time that there were some skilled workmen that came along to help put the windows in place. They're very beautiful on the inside and outside both, but they're very expensive.
Right.
to take care of.
Right.
Mainly. And we just did finish. We have a company in Minnesota that's taking care of these windows. And they sent some people here. They washed all the windows. They repaired any frames or window sills that were damaged or rotten.
Right.
They painted them, the frames and the sills, and then they covered from brick to brick with all of the frames, sills, and the glass windows to protect them from the elements.
Brilliant. Outside, right across the street, there's a cemetery, and can you talk about that just briefly?
We have what we call the old cemetery, which is just east of this church, and then the new cemetery, which is just south of the church.
Okay.
The old cemetery, we have graves there that date back to people who were veterans in the Revolutionary War.
Seriously?
Yes.
Okay.
And then, of course, it runs up through today. Years ago, when they first decided to put an organ in the church, it wasn't too well accepted by too many people because they still believed, some of them, in the old Presbyterian rule that there were to be no musical instruments. Plus, an organ is usually, at that time, associated either with a calliope, carnival, or, in more sense, a tavern.
Oh,
so
yeah.
There was some big arguments, and I understand there were a few people that did leave the church because of it.
Really?
But today, we have the organ we have delivers beautiful music, and we're very lucky to have 3 people here who can play both the piano and the organ.
Yeah, I would say so. And I bet the acoustics are incredible coming off these walls.
They are, and the way, I don't know what it is that makes the acoustics so good here, but they are very good.
So what are some other interesting things about the actual structure of the church? I mean, we've hit the organ and obviously the stained glass. So are there any other secrets?
Yes, the cross is right behind us.
Yes.
That was carved by a skilled wood carver, and it's a Celtic cross, actually. And this man was very particular, and he researched the crosses of antiquity so that he could conform this cross to the ancient crosses. And there is also, which we can't see from here, a picture carved of the one of the big stained glass windows.
Really, that's what that is? Okay,
yes.
because I can kind of see it, and I see like a small engraving
and
on it.
There's other things there that mean certain things, but I can't go through all of them.
See, you guys and your symbols. This is really cool. I enjoyed what Shannon was telling me earlier, too.
Well, one minister pointed out how many in the windows, there are windows in threes that have three things, which are to honor the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit.
That Trinity thing, right?
Yes.
I like that. That's very consistent. Max, can you tell me a little bit about the balconies that we see, and then the pocket doors as well that can section off the church?
Well, the balcony is the original part of the church. It was not added later. And the significance of it is when you get upstairs, you have something to walk on.
Just going off, we're going right off.
Yeah.
Okay, nice.
So there are times, for example, in some weddings, which I can remember my daughter's wedding and a funeral that was here not too long ago, sometimes we fill this sanctuary, that room, and then we have to put chairs on the balcony. So it does get used sometimes, not too often, but sometimes for people who are attending certain services here.
Okay, all right. And I am going to try to swing those pocket doors open later, but they're only really tall, though. I mean, what are those, 3 panels of wood?
No, there's just 2.
Just 2?
One goes into the wall that direction, and one goes into the wall this direction.
Yeah, I'm excited to see this all roll out into a giant wood wall.
That, again, is an original part of the church.
Okay, also original with the
Yes.
balconies. Okay, cool.
So totally. This is so sliding back on me.
All right.
It used to, the reason they were there, for whatever reason, would be to shut off that section from the sanctuary, maybe at services. I know I can remember very well when there used to be a men's group Sunday school that met at the back of the church, and there was a women's Sunday school that met in that corner room because they were still following the men and women.
Yeah.
But in the big open area room, there was a young couples Sunday school room. And my dad and mom began, Mom was born and raised in this church, and they began their Sunday school as married couples there. And then when they reached age 40, I think it was, they were supposed to separate and go to the men's and women's.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
But the group, which was a large group, had such a good time together, they decided they wanted to stay together.
That's smart. So they just moved. They
just stayed there.
Okay.
Yeah. And eventually we joined the men and women's Sunday school group together.
Okay. So. Cool. So are there any other highlights, Max, just as far as the church's overall history that stand out to you might be able to share with us?
Well, of course, we had the centennial, or they had the centennial, which I say lasted 3 days. It was in the history. And then, of course, we had a sesquicentennial. And we had 175th anniversary of the church celebration.
Right.
So those were pretty big.
This has been another edition of History in Your Own Backyard. I'm Susie Selleck, and today we were in Decatur County, Indiana, at the Springhill Presbyterian Church, and we were joined by Max. Max, thank you for joining me. Remember, travel slowly and stop often. Bye for now.